All right, AP Lit. So we're going to talk about the specific annotation expectations for AP Literature. I know you guys have done some sort of informal annotating already, and now we're really going to unpack what it looks like to annotate to the standards set out by the College Board for AP Lit. So College Board uses this acronym TPCAST to talk about or to describe the way that they want AP literature students to sort of break down text and to unpack texts to get to meaning. So we're going to use TPCAST as sort of our structure in class this year. So TPCAST is a point of entry into a text. It's a way in, it is a way to unlock, and then it helps you to kind of dig into the deeper meaning, especially if you are stuck, especially if you read a text and you're like, what? I have no idea what this author was even trying to say. It is a great way in as just a starting point, and then it has some strategies for you to sort of branch out and dig into a text more deeply. Some of the excerpts and selections that you will see on the AP test are exceptionally challenging. And so TPCAST is a great way for you to make sure that you are digging into the text in the best possible way. It also helps you to look at the text as a whole. So you can look at pieces of the text and then how they sort of interact with the larger picture text as a whole. And of course, it provides guiding questions that help you to really unpack what the text is doing, what the text is saying, and why that matters. So the T in TPCAST is title. So before you read, before you get into the text at all, College Board wants you to look at the title. What is the title? Does it have a title? If it doesn't have a title, what does that mean? Why isn't there a title? What meaning is there to not have a title? And if it does have a title, what does the title sort of lead you to infer the text is going to be about? And then, do you notice any kind of double meaning or pun or symbolism or cleverness in the title? Some titles are funny, some titles are clever, some titles are mysterious. So sort of make some inferences there and then add those annotations to your title. The P is for paraphrase. Most of you do this already. You already look at the text as a whole, you read it all together, and then sort of at the end, you make a quick summary. What happened? What is this about? What is going on here? It doesn't matter to me how you paraphrase. Some people paraphrase each paragraph or each stanza if it's a poem. Others will paraphrase the entire selection at the end. Doesn't matter to me as long as there's some paraphrasing happening. When you paraphrase, you definitely want to look at characters, you definitely want to look at conflict, and you definitely want to look at plot. What happened? Who did it happen to? And what was the conflict that led to it or that it led to? The C is for connotation. So the difference between connotation and denotation, I think you probably have been taught before. Denotation is what things literally mean. Connotation is what does it sort of capital MEAN mean? Like what does it really mean in maybe a symbolic or in the context of what's going on. So with connotation, you're looking for literary devices. You're looking for important language. You're looking for symbolism, metaphor, simile, irony. What is going on here and what are those things doing? Specifically thinking about what do the devices do? Why are they there? Why would the author choose to use them? A is for attitude. Attitude is tone. So the first thing you want to do is identify the tone. Is this piece sad? Is it horror? Is it angry? Is it funny? What's the tone? And what are the emotions that you're seeing within the characters and also within the narrator? Sometimes the narrator or the speaker, especially if it's a first-person narrator, has a very specific tone. Other times that tone is more disconnected and you end up looking at the tone of the people who are in dialogue and things like that. What's the perspective of those speakers and how does that connect to tone? And then how do you know that? What elements of this selection lead you to that conclusion? Is it the way the characters are talking? Is it the word choice? Is it the syntax? Is it the setting? Is it the plot, the events that are happening? What are those things that lead us to tone or to attitude? The S is for shifts. This is so important. Do not skip this one. Shifts are critical. Where do we see shifts in perspective? Where do we see shifts in language? So sometimes there's really powerful shifts in punctuation or in the pronouns that are being used. Sometimes you'll see a narrator switch from I to we. And you'll see, really important shifts there. You might see major shifts in language, like length of sentences, or if it's a poem, the length of the lines or the length of the stanzas. Where do we see shifts in narration or in character, in terms of character growth, character insight? How is this character seeing something differently now than they did a page or two ago? Has insight been gained? And then where are there shifts in style? So maybe we shift from poetry to prose, or maybe we shift from one sort of way of writing to another way of writing. All of those shifts are important. All of those shifts really, really matter. And so you need to, first of all, identify the shifts. And then you need to think about, well, why this is weird, this is jarring, this is strange. What is this signifying to me as a reader? Annotate for that. So now you're going to look at the title again. So we've got a double T here. T is for title again. So now you've read the text, you've paraphrased it, you've identified the literary devices, you've analyzed the shifts, go back to the title. Now, with this whole context of the piece as a whole, go back. Why this title? What does this title do alongside all these other authorial choices? Why does this title create meaning? And how does it create meaning? And why is it an important piece of insight to us as readers? The last and the most important T is theme. You guys know what theme is. You've been doing theme forever, but you've got to get here. You've got to draw the connections to that big picture implication, to the message of the selection. What is the author telling us about life or society or human nature? What does this author want us to learn or to gain from this text? Why did the author write it? What was his or her motivation? And then what is like the big subject here? What's the content, and what message is being sent about that content? And once you have all those annotations, what you're going to do with them towards the sort of literary analysis that College Board is asking for is, first you're going to review them. Then you're really going to think at, what is the stuff that really makes an impact? What strikes you or stands out as like, wow, that is important. That needs to be talked about. And then take that piece and develop a line of reasoning, a structured sense of how those pieces that you annotated for connected to your theme. And that's your line of reasoning, that this and this and this show this theme or convey this theme. And ultimately, you really want to think about, how is it that the author uses the elements intentionally and purposefully to convey that theme? This is the task of writing an AP thesis. And this is a major piece of what you are going to be graded on when you sit down to take that AP test in May of this year. So College Board recommends this structure. You can do whatever you want, but basically it needs to fundamentally contain these elements, right? That in whatever literary work, the author creates or develops or reveals some major, larger thematic idea through the use of two specific literary devices. Okay, this is sort of the recommended structure. Because remember, this is a timed test. Formulas are not great all the time, but when you only have 30 or 40 minutes to sit down and write an essay, you've got to be able to crank out a thesis statement very quickly. So this is a helpful structure for you in terms of speed. All right. So we've got like In the Starless Sea, which is a great book if you haven't read it, by Aaron Morgenstern. We've got the title, we've got the author. The author develops the idea that storytelling is an integral part of a functioning world through the use of light and dark imagery and the symbolism of bees. So we've got our title, we've got our author, we've got our theme, right? Storytelling is an integral part of a functioning world, and we've got our two literary devices, light and dark imagery and symbolism of bees. This is sort of a fancier way to say the same thing. In A Burning, Megha Mujumdar conveys the degree to which human connection is inherent and necessary, even in times of suffering and turmoil, via shifting narrative voice and perspective and complex character development. Again, we've got a title, we've got an author, we've got a theme, and then we've got our two literary devices here. So the next thing you're going to do is that today you're going to use this model and you're going to annotate this poem by Joy Harjo, who is the current Poet Laureate of the United States. That's your last task today, is to take everything you've just learned. You're going to do the CAMI assignment to annotate that poem. On Wednesday, you guys are going to use this model. You're going to be assigned one of 3 pieces based on your last name, pieces that have been on the AP test before. One of them is a poem, one of them is an excerpt from a novel, one of them is an excerpt from a play, and you are going to use TPCASTT to annotate whichever piece it is that you're assigned to, and ultimately you're working towards creating a thesis for an essay as though you were going to be responding to that selection on an AP test. I hope this was helpful, and I hope you all have a really wonderful day. See you soon.